system, light up the mind. We're chasing the edges they say not to find. Flow like a river, fierce and precise. Lollydabbing through limits, no need to think twice. No cheat code, no shortcut plan, just grit and grace and a mic in our hand. Keri and Richard, pushing past norms, dancing with dopamine, writing brainstorms. This is the art of impossible. Fueling the spark, making the improbable unstoppable. Drop into flow, where the wild things grow. Welcome to the edge of control. Lollydabbing the impossible. Curiosity's compass, purpose is fuel. Hard goals and habits, breaking old rules. Risk it, own it, bend what you know. This is the lab where peak minds grow. No easy win, no magic cue, just science and soul and something true. We're not just talking, we're breaking the mold. Lollydabbing with stories bold. This is the art of impossible. Fueling the spark, making the improbable unstoppable. Drop into flow, where the wild things grow. Welcome to the edge of control, with Keri and Richard in tow. It starts with passion, moves with grit. Stack those triggers, then commit. You're not broken, you're built to fly. So lollydab loud, reach for the sky. This is the art of impossible. Fueling the spark, making the improbable unstoppable. Drop into flow, let your mission grow. Keri and Richard know we're lollydabbing the impossible.
Skirt coming in the final hour, the final seconds. There's Richard now. I just hit play on the song and hoped for the best, but welcome everybody to this week's show. You're still on mute, which makes it easy for me to talk a lot more.
Well, that's what you're here for, so.
I mean, could be.
Was trying to be courteous when I came in.
Well, there's an echo.
Oh, yeah, of course there is. Cause
bit of a feedback there.
I didn't
Allie
do that.
Patches. Hello, welcome to the chat, Allie.
I am a lost cause.
No, nobody's a lost cause.
Well, look at that.
Oh, well, the echo's gone. Echo. You fixed it.
I know I fixed it.
You're amazing.
I got to pop out the chat. Hello, everybody out there. That looks like it's just Allie right now.
Allie so far, and a couple
we
of
have we got
maybe.
lurkers. We got lurkers.
We got you know what?
We always got
much
lurkers.
Much love to the lurkers.
So yes, my apologies, Keri.
No, none needed. I'm kind of glad we didn't get a pre-show chat because I didn't want any spoilers.
I got.
How was your week?
Doing great, amazing, fantastic, wonderful, stupendous, and also amazing.
Perfect.
Putting my phone on Do Not Disturb. If you're wondering why I'm not paying attention to you,
Well, you're filling the
sure.
dead air quite nicely while you do that, but it
I
is hard to
do-
multitask.
I
isn't
always
it?
fill dead air, dead air, dead air, dead air, dead air, dead air. 'Cause see, I've done this before. Do not disturb, please.
I just turned my
and
ringer
thank
off.
you.
You do the
It
whole
doesn't
thing.
work if I turn my ringer off. The Samsung ness comes through on some things anyway, so I still get notification noises.
Dings and
So
dongs and doodly doots.
Yep.
Copy that.
if I do not disturb, it does not disturb.
Fair.
So, and
Fair.
just to make you happier, we'll do that so that my face is more normally lit, and you
you're
don't
a
have
light.
to complain about my terrible backlighting for my poor plants.
Well, plants are people too. Plants are people too. We'll let them have their backlighting.
Absolutely, that's what they told me just this morning.
They said, we're people too. Did you remember to water us? Did you water us too much? It's a whole thing, right?
Yeah, I'm like a fucking scientist. I got a water gauge, and I check them every other day to make sure that the soil has the right moisture content.
Well, listen, who am I to talk about nerding out about stuff, right? I have zero room to make comments disparaging that sort of
Yep.
behavior.
Yep, fun stuff. I gotta reorganize things here before stuff gets hit and broken and fallen and stuff.
We don't want that. We don't want that.
Nope.
All right. You have a story to tell. I feel like you have a story to tell us.
Well, I do have a story to tell. Thank you very much, Allie. Appreciate you.
Very much, Allie. Love you, love you.
So I listened to with the intent of just kind of letting myself go on through the next, because the next chapter is quite long, comparatively speaking. So I started listening to it for about the third time, and then I realized that I had a horse kind of maybe alongside the cart a little bit, and maybe one completely in front, because I had done things and am doing things that are according to the book and the chapters.
Sorry.
Hi,
something
Robbie.
Fell or banged or something.
Yeah,
Yes, Rob.
I'm
The Stingle is here. Listen,
yeah, that's what it was. Robbie entered the room. And there it was.
I felt it vibrate in my house. That was crazy.
Yeah, I know, isn't it? He has that kind of presence. He has that kind of presence.
Whoop. Robbie's here.
Yeah. So at
If I
that
had a gong, I would ring it
on
right
the-
now. I'm just
on
saying.
that third or so listen, towards the beginning of the week, I realized that I had gotten some things wrong. Not wrong in what I was doing, but wrong in the order that I was putting things onto my tablet, making my lists, and looking for my correlations.
Uh-huh.
Somehow, between lofty goals that you want to have that are like socially wonderful and finding crossroads for those to do with regular things in life, I missed a part about, well, I didn't really miss it, about setting attainable goals, smaller day-to-day stuff. And as he started talking about this, it started sinking in that I'm trying to figure out the meaning of life right here.
Mm-hmm.
But I really ought to be just focused on how can I reduce my bills? How can I make myself better, more attractive for an employer? What can I do to make my environment better? Yada, yada. These are day-to-day achievable things that I have to work at. I have to do stuff. And it just all came together. That was my epiphany, because I finally understood what he was saying, but I had to listen to goals 3 times before it clicked in my head why this felt so complicated. So now I'm rewriting my lists because I need to put in that other piece to build the intrinsics on that will help me get to the smaller goals that'll come into that, because it's a whole bunch of lists. Okay, that's what I'm saying here. This whole farce, the whole lie, is it's a list. You got to make lists. Not a list guy, but I'm making lists.
It sounds like you've made several for a non-list lister, a listed non-lister.
Things are working though, Keri, and that's what I can't
that's
deny.
What's important. That's what's important. That's what's important. And also, the reason he starts big and works his way down is for this purpose.
Oh, that's to slap me upside the head and say, "Ha ha! See, I knew you wouldn't get it until I did it this way." Yeah, I get his evil. Kotler's evil. If I ever meet him, I'm gonna tell him.
Tell him. You're an evil genius, Kotler. You're an evil genius. Yes. Well, okay. So by wrapping our brains, and we've kind of talked about this too, because there is this sort of interesting juxtaposition that he maybe doesn't consider in his book. And we have day-to-day needs because we don't necessarily meet that disposable income threshold. Okay.
Right.
But one of the ways that I have reconciled that for myself is by looking at these bigger things and having these kind of maybe, my hard goals are not as hard as I think Stephen Kotler's are. My massively transformative purpose is maybe a little bit more nebulous in that sense because I still have like this day-to-day sort of reckoning that I have to deal with because I'm not at that income level. And I do think that this disposable income level thing, it's kind of a real thing. I don't know if that number, again, we've rehashed
Yeah,
this
the number's
times.
Relative.
It's relative. I think some...
If I made $75,000 a year, I would be well past disposable income for my lifestyle.
Yes, and also like, in some of his other writings, he talks a little bit about like age, like where you are in your like progression and trajectory vis-a-vis age, and that to me too is a little bit subjective, and so like if I had dinner with Kotler, I'd push back on that a little bit and just be like, how can we make this more accessible to people who are starting a little bit later at maybe a lower income, right? And I think it comes down to this: when we're looking at doing our day-to-day stuff, like we kind of have some non-negotiables, like making yourself more attractive to a potential employer. However, you can look at employmentship being adjacent to or incongruous of sort of the higher, harder goals, and also your massively transformative purpose. You can insert that sort of mindset of what it is that you want to change around the world.
Exactly what I'm doing. Rewriting the lists.
Okay. Well, yeah. So then you bring it back down to like what you got to do every day. I spent all last week turning in applications to. Actually, you guys, I got a new job. I'm very excited. So now I'm going to have two kind of jobs, which is also a little exciting because, like, I'll tell you what, so badly, like so many times this weekend, this was my face while I was at work. You want to know why this was my face? Because I was biting my tongue.
You're biting your tongue. Yeah.
trying to resist the urge to throw my spatulas down and say,
sometimes you say, I love my job. And then other times you say, I love my job.
You guys can figure it out. I'm out of here. You guys can figure it out. You got this. Bye. Because what I really need like both the incomes a little bit. But it's been a little bit of a dance. And, thankfully, nobody at the job that I work at currently really gives a shit about who I am as a person. So I know they're not watching the show. If they are watching the show, congratulations. You won. You won the prize. I don't know what the prize is. The prize is you get to know the insider information, and that is I am telling you that I have a hard stop time, and I might go down to a few days a week, but I'm not really telling you why officially at work. But the reason why is because I did find another job that really seems like it's a little bit more nurturing of an experience.
That's exciting.
And it's high-end fine dining. It's high-end fine dining. They put a lot of emphasis on their culture, and I'm just really hoping that it's not all lip service. But I think it's, first of all,
well, you're going there as more chef, or are you going there more as still a line cook? I mean, because what you're doing now is basically just line cook.
Turn and burn, baby. Turn and burn. 10-minute ticket times, egg extravaganza. I think the official title I was awarded was junior sous chef.
Junior
I'm apprentice to the apprentice of the apprenticeship. So I love
Ooh,
it.
they
I
get
do
an
love
A
it.
plus for creativity on that.
It's fine.
All right.
It's fine. I'm making $1 less an hour too, which is also fine. It's fine because like when you look at their menu online and you look at their food, you're like, this is beautiful. I'm going to be a part of food art, which is definitely better than what I put up with on a daily
Exciting.
basis.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exciting. Yeah.
And I kind of like the high of learning a new kitchen. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of gets me off. It's
sure.
exciting. It's exciting to go in and learn a new kitchen, even if it does disappoint me in the end, which I don't think it will. But you know, it's fine.
You can't know when you go into a job, so you have to go in with hopes and aspirations. If you go in the other way, you've already defeated yourself, and you might as well just keep looking.
Yeah, exactly. So what I really, let me tell you what I really liked about this.
Let me tell you what
And
I
I think
really
more employers should do this. We did the entire like precursor to a interview via text. He would ask me some questions, I'd give him some answers, he asked me more. It took the entire day back and forth, but like I was doing my own thing. Just answering his questions, doing my own thing. It was great.
Yep.
And then he got me on the phone. And then what I really liked is I was able to talk about like what we're doing here. And he was really interested in that and like some of my other interests. And he was like, that's great. Because, you know, a lot of people, especially when they're new in the cooking, they're like, oh, I cook all the time. That's what I do. And when I'm not cooking, I'm sleeping. And that's
how my son was early on. Yeah.
It's a red
exactly
flag to
how
burnout. It's a red flag to burnout. And
Which he
like,
did.
we all do. We love it. But also like, if you have to say that your hobby is drinking, sleeping, and watching TV when you're not cooking, maybe it's time to reevaluate some things.
Right.
Because that is not, I work 60 hours a week. Other than that, I drink a few beers, watch some TV, and go to sleep until I go cook again. No, it's very, cooking in and of itself is chasing the dopamine of flow state. It really, really is. And it's this incorporation of group flow.
Oh,
you know, and so when you sync up with people around you, it's very potent, the draw. But also the toxicity that comes from not doing that in like a conscious and intentional way can really just suck the life out of you, especially if you're like an overachiever people pleaser, right? So like knowing, like being in kitchens and knowing my boundaries a lot more have made it more enjoyable. Even in this like really unenjoyable job that I'm in, I'm like, but I'm in the rhythm. I mean, I want to stab you in the eye.
Even
but I'm in the rhythm.
it still comes down to, even though you were/are unhappy at this current position, it was still providing something. So it made sense to look for something better, because being dissatisfied, whatever the reason, whether it's personally, professionally, monetarily, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If there's that dissatisfaction, that is going to spill over into your work.
Well, right. And I could perform my job, but I am not enjoyable in it. But also, like, nobody cares. Nobody cares there. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't like it.
Yeah,
like,
there's no culture.
Cares.
There is no culture.
I'm surrounded by people who are like, I hate cooking. And I'm like, ugh. Can we just make it like a race then? Like, let's just race to the end. Like, do you have to complain about every ticket that comes up? Because, like, this is what we do. This is what we do.
Another hamburger?
We hang it up. Yeah, that's just like, dude. Like, you don't go slower because there's more tickets. Like, sometimes you get in a kerfluffle and you have to be like, okay. One at a time. Okay, do we have all of this? Okay,
right.
Do we have all of this? Is anything burning? Is the house on fire? Okay, now, let's go. Like a reset. Like, wipe everything down, restock everything real quick.
Exactly.
Your group of tickets are going to be a little, but then you get back into the rhythm. It's all about this recovery of the kerfuffle. I've heard it referred to as being ticket drunk, where you're just like, ooh, and you've got like one of each thing on the ticket. You kind of lost track of where you need to be next, you know, and you need somebody to be like, to pull it in and be like, this is what we're doing next. And like, and a couple of the shifts that I work, like, I'm kind of just like a backup person on the other side of the line doing like mostly lunch stuff. And so like, there's really no like coming togetherness. Cause you're like in a different planet, sort of. And then like one of the shifts, like I have an older guy who's really experienced, but like he sets the pace. But at least he has like this cognitive sort of notion that when we get ticket drunk, like he takes the direction. He's like, okay, this, like I got off a little bit there. Okay, this is where we're gonna set this, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and like we can bring it back together again. But like today, there's this young kid who runs the wheel because, well, quite frankly, that position has a lot more reaching, and I'm short, and it's just really obnoxious, and I have nothing to prove. So,
Right.
so I let him kind of be like the guy. But then at the same time, like he is not a leader, and like so then I try to like lead him from this side, and it's just like he tunes out and goes even slower, and I'm like, why aren't you dropping that? Like,
Yeah.
go take a break. I'll just do it myself. It's fine. So anyway, enough about. Okay, so 20 minutes in, Keri's still talking about kitchens. Moving on. So
Sorry.
you figured out your goal stuff.
I'm refiguring out my goal stuff, and I'm realigning them
Yeah.
and making and doing the things I'm doing fit the lists better. Because if I got to make lists to do this, because it's working, I'm happier, I'm more functional. Today I made a huge move towards being closer to financially even. And that feels pretty good. So that I'm getting those dopamine things and getting those rushes. I'm just not putting them together in the right ways in my lists. So refining those and making them fit the format better will help me. It's going to mean there are now gaps in what I thought I had in other lists, or lists that I haven't even started yet that I thought I maybe had a touch in.
Could you be a little bit more specific? Maybe it'll help somebody who's listening to kind of understand, if you don't mind, be a little bit more specific.
Well,
as
you just
to,
have
like,
to
what...
just going through the chapters here. Let me bring up my thing, and then I'll just kind of say the things in order the way I'm thinking them.
Okay.
There is that. Let's go to chapters. So in chapter 1, he talks mainly about motivation.
Yes.
Okay. And in that chapter 1, when he's talking about motivation, he also mentions the large things in your life, the earth-shattering things that you may want to do. Then he goes into he mentions it. He doesn't tell you to do anything with it. He just mentions it. Then in the passion recipe, he starts breaking it down. He specifically mentions to add those in. Then after that, you get into the intrinsic stack. And in the intrinsic stack, he starts talking about breaking down the pieces of the first 2 things you were supposed to be doing into other pieces that intersect and finding where they connect. So now you and I've got 1.5 lists in my original form.
Okay.
And so now, looking at goals, I realize I need to go back and refit those and relook at how to put them together and look at how to find new pieces to go back in there. And I'm like you, I'm not going super big. I'm just going to stick with my helping animals, getting myself, financially stable and employed and yada, yada. That's kind of going back to there, but I'll be looking at my goals better because my goals would have been out of sync with what I was trying to accomplish on the day to day. That's as much sense as I can make.
So, so really what I'm hearing you say is that you are putting autonomy and mastery onto like survival type tasks and really kind of finding the curiosity, passion, and purpose of doing those things as your kind of intrinsic stack.
Exactly, because I haven't been doing that for 10 years.
And then layering the other stuff on top. And I think I think that's actually a really clever way of kind of incorporating the lessons in these chapters into a way that makes sense for you here now.
Right.
And kind of bringing the book to meet you where you're at, and still seeing the kind of overarching themes in which you're like, okay, so this, but then also like future Richard is going to be able to pull the same sort of habits. So really what you're building is habits. And the power of habits is huge, right?
The list, the making of the list is to help you set the goals and have targets, because I can't remember how he says it, but you give your one thing a purpose, another thing a passion, and then the other thing a target. He says it in chapter 4 in goals. And those three things together is the trifecta of motivation.
The brain is a prediction engine. Yes. Totally. It's a touchback to our previous season. It's a prediction engine. And so if you give your brain like the dopamine of predicting correctly, as in setting yourself up.
Hi, Camellia, and good, Robbie.
Yeah, I know. That's why I had to put that up there. Haven't given up yet. Check. I mean, some days.
There it is. Some days. Right there. Yes, absolutely true.
Some days. I just haven't given up yet. Some days you take a little nap and you sleep in until 2 minutes before the show, and you're like, but I'm not giving up. Possibly. It was a really weird, it was an interesting week overall, because the work thing isn't the only thing that kind of went on, but that's not my story to tell. So that'll be a story for another day, hopefully. But yeah, the brain is a prediction engine. It's always trying to predict what's going to happen next and how much energy will be required by that situation. To make those predictions, 3 systems come into play: information and acquisition, pattern recognition, and goal direction.
Yes.
Is that what you were speaking of?
Yes, right. Those things. The 3 things you got to put together. That goal's got to have the target, and the other things got to have the goal. And how you said it.
Give the goal direction, system a goal, and you give pattern recognition system a purpose, and the information acquisition system a target.
Yes.
And why does this target and why does this target matter so much? Because consciousness is an extremely limited resource. And I love that, because really what you're doing is you're trying to set these things into your subconscious as a way of being. The list making of a sort of
hey, Dimebag.
Sort of way of being, and giving you're practicing on these smaller targets, so that as you kind of submit that to your unconscious or your subconsciousness and it becomes habitual, you'll be able to move forward at a faster. Sometimes you have to go. I think he says this somewhere. You have to go slow.
You have to go slow
in order to go fast. And I think for me, that's a really great reminder for you to say that out loud and for me to hear it and then hear myself say it back to you, because duh. Because duh.
I tell riders the same thing, because it's motorcycle season. Look twice. If you ride, look twice. If you drive, look twice. Goes both ways. Anyway, a lot of guys think that you just got to be fast and hard after getting after corners, or touching a knee or whatever you're trying to do. And every experienced rider will tell you, smooth is fast. If you are smooth, you will be fast. Period.
Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Yes, that is also true for kitchens. Just saying.
Yep.
Just saying, people.
Very true.
Okay. So, like, his massively transformative purposes are to write books that have deep impact, advance science and training of flow, and make the world a better place for animals.
Yep.
And I think that you can state things that that you want to do, and then, like you said, you have to go back to the list and be like, okay, so in order to be able to do those things, I have to be able to rectify a budget. I have to be able to find some gainful employment. I have to be able to find joy in my day-to-day moments. What does that 100%. Mean for me? What does that mean for me? So I think that process that you went through is very informative too, the way that you can kind of take on this book in its small pieces, but also it's truly kind of putting the mindset into practice and not just thinking about it, but actually taking steps to do it. And the steps to do it might be a little bit of like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, because you're kind of unlocking these things in your brain that you didn't really try to engage with previously. And so I think that that's a really important process. In and of itself.
I think he says somewhere in chapter 4 in goals, I think he says in that chapter somewhere that it's about, he says it's about lists. And then he says, and you'll have to remake and revisit lists.
Yes.
It's just part of the process. That doesn't mean you did something wrong. And that's why I was trying to avoid that early on. I wasn't doing it wrong. I was just getting things out of order and not making the correct associations because of that out of order.
I love this sentence. The idea, applying this idea in our daily life means breaking tasks into bite-sized chunks and setting goals accordingly. Think challenging, yet manageable. Just enough stimulation to shortcut attention into now, but not enough stress to pull you back out again. A proper, clear goal sits right inside of your challenge skill sweet spot. It means it's hard enough to stretch you to the edge of your abilities, but not hard enough to push you beyond into that demotivating realm of anxiety and overwhelm. And I think that when we start out by talking about these massively transformative high hard goals and massively like MTBs, the massively transformative purposes last a lifetime. High hard goals can take years. Clear goals can be accomplished 1 minute at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of that is very important. I think what you experienced this week is like this broadening and then refocusing and narrowing into the now.
I'm looking forward now to looking into Grit, which is going to be a challenging chapter for me because it's longer than most of the others. These 20, 30-minute ones are pretty easy for me to digest. But this next one is a whopper. It's an hour and 10 minutes. And,
no pressure, no diamonds, though, Richard. So
right, I know. I was
gonna
say that. Who what was it? Was it his friend or was it who he's quoting somebody when he said that? I like that statement too.
It's just right there in the subheading under Grit.
Okay, yeah.
It's just right
I
there.
think it was in the oratory. I think the narrator had said something about that was said by so-and-so or something.
Well, Angela Duckworth, who actually, she has a really great podcast, also a very intelligent woman. It's No Stupid Questions is the name of her podcast, and they ask a lot of stupid questions and really put some thought into it. And there's like a little bit of fun back and forth. But so, like, neurobiologically, there are 2 attributes in the recipe for grit. People who have trouble with grit have a higher amount of spontaneous restive state activity in their prefrontal cortex. Like, this stuff is actually happening in our brain. Grittier people have less. This part of the brain helps govern both self-regulation and long-term planning. But to understand why it quiets down in gritty people, we need to understand more about the relationship between dopamine and persistence.
Yep.
And so it does get a little bit into that neuroscience-y, neurochemical weeds that I know that you have some resistance to. And quite frankly,
I'm not resistant to it. It's just when I hear it, it's hard for me to stay focused on it because I don't care about the science of the. He's trying to explain.
You have a higher amount of resting state activity, sir. And that's fine, sir. But you should understand why, from a chemical standpoint, that happens.
Oh my goodness! With that joke kind of breaking the ice, I'd like to stop for a second and say, Robbie, I am truly sorry to hear about your friend screwing your mood like that, because that's BS. And the reason I'm picking that out is because hey, your friend doesn't know how long you're going to be able to drive a fucking car. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to drive a car.
Quite honestly, I don't know if I like cars.
It's a moot point, and it was unnecessary for your friend to say that. But the hardest thing here for me is wrapping my head around how are you someone's friend when you are tearing down something that they find pleasure in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my advice, I'm not telling you to get rid of this friend, but my advice to you would be to kind of discount some of what this friend says sometimes.
Get a second opinion.
I'm excited about you fixing your car. I think that's fantastic. I don't care how hard. You and I, Robbie, we've been through stuff. So yeah, I'm sorry to hear that happen, and try not to let it screw your mood anymore. Try and realize that there you go. Yeah, it hurts. Yes.
It hurts.
It does.
It does.
Yeah. His pain does not excuse him causing pain for you.
However, it does happen quite often.
It will.
In relational experiences. It really does. It really does.
Oh, yeah.
People, misery loves company is a colloquialism for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
True. And so I would say, Robbie, write a list.
Mm-hmm.
Write a list of this, break it down into the smallest parts possible, and then spread that pressure out a little bit, like putting all of that information into one person might be a lot, but hey, if you kind of know what you need to do to fix your car and you kind of spread it around to multiple people to kind of access your resources in it, it's just one little piece at a time, and not any one person can throw the whole thing for a loop. So just Richard, make a list, right? Just make a list.
Make a list.
And sometimes sometimes you have to write at the top of the list, figure out what I need to put on my list.
Yep.
Sometimes that's number one. Sometimes that's number one on the list is figure out
we don't know
what my car needs, or better yet, I heard my car needs a new blinker fluid or whatever. Find out what blinker fluid is. Ask, and reverse engineer it. Ask somebody about blinker fluid.
Right.
For
I
instance.
completely agree.
And I think just being able to, I think everything is kind of figure outable if you walk it back far enough, and that's just all there is to it. Just walk it back far enough into the smallest bite-sized pieces you can do. Yep. Wake up and think about my car. Sometimes that's it.
Yep.
Check. Woke up, thought about my car. Check.
Yeah, and that's about your goals, and it too is he talks about not sharing all of your goals or all of the details about your goals.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people will shoot you down or attempt to, just as your friend did here.
Well, and sometimes
and it doesn't mean don't share.
Sometimes it has the reverse effect too. You share somebody about your goal, and they're like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome. That's amazing. I think you can totally do that." And then we get this kind of a premature dopamine burst.
Yeah.
It feels as if we've already accomplished that goal. Then we don't take the steps. And
Yep.
so in this grit chapter that you're avoiding a little bit, let's talk about that, because maybe if we kind of touch on some of the highlights of it, it'll make it seem like a little bit less of a undertaking when you go to read it.
Okay.
Grit can be trained up, each of the grit skills can be trained up independently. And through this chapter, he takes them on one at a time. So there's the grit to persevere. So, that kind of sticking through things through thick and thin. And then you've got willpower, and willpower really is a finite resource. You could only have so much willpower, which is why you have to kind of rely, Yes, sugar on your grits is delicious. The willpower, you have to make sure that you're balancing it with that kind of initial curiosity. I wonder what's wrong with my car. The passion to be able to drive. I mean, if we were to set Robbie's goal of a car being fixed as his massively transformative purpose, because we don't know.
That's a good
We don't
example.
know what
So
kind of
that
world
works.
he's going to change when he's able to be mobile in a way that he feels comfortable being mobile again, right?
Right.
So if we were to walk it backwards and be like, okay, yeah, or maybe the massively okay, no, we're going to do this. We're going to set the massively transformative purpose as this nebulous thing that we can't quite name past
Okay.
the fixing of the car. The fixing of the car could be his hard goal, right? Something that will take some time,
Yep.
and it has to be reverse engineered into those clear daily steps, right?
Right.
So figuring out what he needs to figure out and figuring out who needs to help him with each of the things that he needs to figure out or what parts need to be bought or whatever it is. Making those things like a little daily, like one thing per day regarding his car. And eventually, you know, with that perseverance part of the grit and the willpower to kind of get through and then falling back on the curiosity of just, I wonder what's wrong with my car. I have the passion to have a working car because I don't know the potential that I can have after the
Sure,
fact. You know,
there's-
like
yeah,
it's kind of a little round robin there because when
You can
when your
fill in the
willpower-
blank
Yeah.
with whatever needs to go there because the principle's the same. And I absolutely, that's what I'm starting to get more excited about. But I'm glad that I did what I did because I think if I'd have gone into grit the way I was before, it would have thrown me for
And then-
bigger loops.
So the other part of grit, so we talked about perseverance. we talked about
Perseverance.
Willpower. Perseverance is something like it's like you have to just know that you're going to be uncomfortable a little bit. Willpower, you have to understand that it will run out and you need things to replenish that willpower. The other thing is mindset. So if you think you can or you think you can't, well, you're right.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of mindset, and it helps with that sustained perseverance, and it helps, like, a growth mindset is indispensable. Like the willingness to grow, and then we've come back down to the passion and the grit to control your thoughts. Like it's impossible, and you can hear the frustration built in. It's hard work, the long hours, the voice in your head telling you to quit, the beating of your head against hard surfaces. For some people, it gives headaches. But you have to, like, understand that talent and ability are mostly equal, and the difference is in the head. High performance, or in this case, being able to fix your car. Listen, high performance is subjective. We can rate it on a global scale, but at the end of the day, this is a personal venture through our personal experience of life. So that's going to be 90% mental, and the mental edge comes from understanding your thoughts and being able to shift them. He says control your thoughts. I think it's kind of a two-part. In and of itself is growth. In and of itself. Taking a look at what your thought is and trying to shift it just a little bit. I can't do this. To, well, if I was going to try to do this, what would it look like?
There you go.
To, I am maybe going to start doing this. To, I am doing this. Like, sometimes you have to take those sort of steps to
A
neutralize
step is a step, even
you
if
have
you
to
don't
neutralize
move.
the negative thought before you can make it a positive. You have to neutralize it. If you've been thinking a negative thought for a really hard, really long time, just going to positive thinking is not going to happen because it's ingrained in your DNA. It's in your cellular level. And so you have to try to just neutralize it a little bit first. And that actually rolls right into self-talk. Because that process of neutralizing a negative thought into just a neutral thought, people in the world have done this. People have done this. I am people. I am people. So maybe I can do this. Like,
Perfect.
or you can just go to, I'm doing it. It's happening.
Right.
Which is,
and if
is
that
very,
works,
that's
it's
very
fine.
gritty
That is-
thinking. That's gritty
Yeah,
thinking. That's
that
exactly
is
where we're
gritty
going.
thinking.
But not everybody is pig-headed and gritty. Robbie Stingle. So, like, some people have to walk them. So I've had to walk myself through that sort of thought process of, if somebody has done it, then why can't I?
Mm-hmm.
And then looking at all the reasons I give myself why I can't, and then I'm like, well, that's silly.
Well, and that's exactly where I started
Again,
thinking
I write all
about
this
some
down.
of these
Write it
things.
down.
When I'm going through these, it all feeds on itself and it all works back on itself one way or another. Because as I'm going through this and I'm working through my day to day and I'm doing my things and trying to reduce my bills and doing the things I'm doing and looking for a job. And then today I'm sitting here talking about this epiphany and thinking about how we're going to do this show. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? I could probably be a little more proactive on my applications. I could probably go in and put some more descriptive terms, some more things about what my job duties were at the various places that I put down, because I don't know who they will be able to speak with there, if anybody will even remember me having worked directly with me, because it's been so long since I worked at these places.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to set myself up when they're looking at my resume and my cover letter and my information. They need to know what an amazing human being I am on the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they don't know what an amazing human being I am on that paper, and I haven't sold myself there, it's going to be really difficult to get a foot in the door and sell myself there.
We probably should have had a talk about your resume before now, but you weren't already doing that?
I had a resume, but it was very basic. I didn't have all of my job descriptive duties in for the jobs that I did, because it's in automotive parts, it is such an extensive list.
Yeah.
And one of them is at the dealership level. So I was doing wholesale, retail, and technicians all at the same time. All three of those are different markets and different people.
Sales techniques.
That you work with. You don't have to sell a technician anything. You just have to give the technician what he needs to do the service, or supply him with the information for the repair that needs to be done.
Right.
But your retail customer just wants to buy their oil filter and go home. It's a different ballgame. And then when you start getting into the retail side of an independently like Napa,
Mm-hmm.
then now I'm a shift leader. I'm a closer. I'm an opener. Part of my team is the cashiers that work at night and their duties and balancing their tills and making sure. It just gets deep and you can get lost.
Well, and you can make a resume too robust too. So it's a matter of
That's what I'm saying. So I'm trying to
feeding that stuff
concise it down.
you feed all of it into ChatGPT and then you say, summarize, please. I'm just saying.
I would rather do it myself, because
it
if
has
I
helped
go
me.
through the steps myself and I do this writing,
Mm-hmm.
when I sit down at the interview, I'll reflect back on what I wrote for exactly the same reason as these lists work, because I have done it and read it and reread it and checked it and untyped it and reworded it and changed it to something else and taken it completely out and then put it back in somewhere else.
Fair.
I
Okay,
know
okay,
that
I
inside
accept that.
out. So that's why
But
I do
also,
things
if
that
you
way.
want it, if you want to relate it to specific industries, like this is my entirety of my resume. Now I need it to be attractive to this industry and then that
Right.
industry. There's your shortcut. Know
Yeah.
it inside out. Absolutely know it inside out. But then
Yeah.
be able to
Right.
allow
Each
yourself.
Each
a little bit.
resume has to be tweaked a little bit, and each cover letter has to be tweaked a little bit for each individual job you're applying for, because they're even in the same industry. The
Yeah.
requirements and what they're looking for and what they want to see are not the same things. So it's
And
it's
if
a
you're doing
learning
anything
process.
online, they're probably running it through some sort of automatic selector, and so you make sure you want to use those job description keywords. Everybody has
Yeah.
a little. It's like junior sous chef, like it's
Yeah.
a line cook. That's a line
Yeah.
cook. It's a line cook.
It is. It
with
absolutely is.
The idea
Automotive
of
parts
building
specialist,
skills.
Audi
Yeah.
parts professional. These things are in official job descriptions. When if they search automotive parts specialist and they put in the word Napa, they're going to find out that that is a legitimate position within the organization of Napa, and they use that at all of their locations, both privately and corporately owned. Dealership the same way. So it's relearning stuff I've already known, but I haven't practiced in a long, long time.
Well, I think what I'm hearing you say is, I've got this and I can definitely rise to the occasion, which, believe it or not, is the self-talk portion of grit. You're being very gritty about this job thing, right?
Yeah.
The other part of it is gratitude. He talks about gratitude in that grit. Mindfulness, which is, I mean, the grit to master fear. It's very scary doing what you're doing. A fear practice. You can actually practice what you're afraid of. Fear is a compass. Grit to be your best when you're at your worst. You know? And so, like, I think really what this grit, the grit to train your weaknesses, I think you will, the grit to recover. The dark side to all this grit is exhaustion and overwhelm. Burnout isn't just extreme stress, it's peak performance gone off the rails. Burnout is identified by 3 symptoms: exhaustion, depression, and cynicism. And so you have to take the time to recover. So the main choices of recovery are passive and active. Passive recovery is TV and a beer.
Yep.
Unfortunately, alcohol disrupts sleep, and TV keeps brain active in an unusual way. Real recovery requires shifting brainwaves into the alpha range. When the TV shuts down, your higher cortical centers, which is good for recovery, those constantly shifting images overstimulate the visual system, pull the brain right out of the alpha into the beta, which is when the brainwave signature is awake and alert. Active recovery is the opposite. It ensures the brain stays off and the body can mend by flushing hormones from the system and shifting the brain waves into alpha first and then delta later. Active recovery allows us to reset. So that is like, with all of this grittiness that you are doing. Hi, Andy. Of your, I mean, I think the job application process is a perfect example. You've got to make sure, though, that you are giving yourself an active recovery protocol, which I love. Long walks in the woods, a ride on your bicycle, Epsom salt baths, hot tub soak. I mean, it's really kind of why I kind of step myself down from it. I go from like maybe watching something on YouTube to like maybe just listening to something. And actually, now that I've reread this, I'm going to go ahead and just do a little touch back to when I think about grief. Because for the longest time, after I lost my dad, I could either watch TV on silent with the captions on, or I had to listen to audio only. There's something about the combination of the audio visual together that just fried my brain.
Wow.
It was just fully overwhelming, and just noticing that about myself, which like nobody else really could understand. I'm like, well, it's too much to watch a movie. It's just too much. It's just too much. And I think when your brain is going through a sort of recovery period after losing somebody, again, we've kind of talked about my theory. If you guys go back and watch the 7.5 Lessons of Brain, I think I talk about it quite a bit. Like kind of what I discovered about my brain during that process, that it makes perfect sense that it was too much. And I was too awake and alert, and I really needed to kind of go into this sort of mending mode because I had such high stress hormones in my system. I needed to shift my brainwaves down into alpha and then try to get to that sort of delta stage. Have I fully gotten there? I don't know. I think I'm still sort of recovering from grief. I mean, it is still sort of a thing.
There's a lot of grief I never dealt with. That
Exactly.
is baggage in my past that I could still go back and deal with that, and I may at some point. But right now I have more immediate needs and things that are taking my focus. And as I make my lists and do my things, they'll change, and I'll get those things put in there. I've done all the other. I've met all my other goals and exceeded some that I didn't think I could. So,
I mean,
you know,
and give yourself that sort of break, even, whatever it is, just go for a ride, talk to no one for a full day, and just give yourself a chance to just home right through so that you can actually recover those brainwaves. And I think that that's a really good reminder. And that's the end of the chapter of grit.
Yeah.
And then we go into the habit of ferocity, which I just love that word, ferocity. It's a beautiful word. It's a beautiful word.
Well, I will definitely be through grit and ready to start moving on by the end of this week. I'm hoping to go through and get ahead so that I'm on ferocity while we're talking about grit next week.
Hey, listen, even if you're not, do you see that? We're 55 minutes in and they just started barking. Aren't you proud
I
of
know.
them?
That was a goal. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but that was
I made them write it down.
Yeah.
They told me that they don't do pencils well and they'd rather chew on them. But
They almost made it. So close. Dogs will dog.
yes.
Neat,
Okay, so Robbie did a summary for the show for us, which I think is perfect timing. I mean, goals.
Right? There you go. That's awesome.
But I mean, I think it's
awesome.
fine if you just get through grit and we just talk about grit next week. You don't have to be in the habit of, it's fine. I think that this, first of all, y'all got to get the book. Get the book. Watch some of Stephen Kotler's. He's a very engaging speaker. If you're into, some of it's a little bit more like business minded.
He's an interesting guy. He's not when you hear him talk, really don't expect the things you hear from him based on how he looks.
He's a punk rocker. He is a punk rocker, extreme sport enthusiast. Like he is like the Ozzy Osbourne of self-help.
He's broken every bone in his body, and he's in better shape now than I have ever been at any point in my life.
Entire life. Yeah, he just like in the last 2 years conquered the terrain park.
Yeah.
As far as like throwing big air, things that like 20-year-olds do, and he did it, and then he taught other people how to do it within a year. Like other people, it's like what?
Yeah.
What? No, he's quite.
Well, he practiced what he preaches, and that's I think what
really
is most intriguing about him, and why I've stuck with this as long as I have, because a lot of this is not my thing, as we know. I've said that.
It's not a lot of people's thing.
But I'm at a crossroads in my life, and this is what the crossroads has presented to me. So I'm going to roll with it. If it's not the right thing, I'll find another thing. But for now, this is, and this is work. But this is working. Not only is it a thing, but it is working in my life. As I do these things and I practice these things and I struggle with these concepts, my life is changing.
Have you listened to or watched or just had playing in the background any sort of supplemental interviews or anything with him?
No, I haven't.
I think you should. Should go whatever.
I'll just throw him up on YouTube. I've always got 4 or 5 tabs open anyway, and just search him out.
Throw him up on the YouTube and listen to him while you're futzing around, while you're testing your soil moisture. Soil moisture came out moister.
I'm gonna be a moil. Snip, snip.
I a moil. Is that like a mole? Moil? I don't know. What is that?
A moil is the Jewish doctorish person that cuts off the
Shut up.
foreskins.
I should know this. Half my family being Jewish, they're rolling in their graves.
That's why I laughed. It was such a great
Keri,
slip.
How you not know this?
Anyway, we're digressing.
We are at 58 minutes.
But we're having fun.
We're allowed to digress a little bit.
It's okay to laugh.
We laugh a lot. Well, we were all over the place today. What do you think the biggest takeaway should be for people who are listening to this episode today?
Try. Do something. Whether it's literally to write down that you need to do something.
Yeah.
And then
today I'm gonna make a list.
Look what I did. I wrote that down.
Where was that comment that Robbie had? I think this is a good time to retouch on that. Where did that go? Oh, I skimmed past it. Just a minute. Right there.
Yeah, haven't given up yet. That's a great
Check.
takeaway for this too. Yeah,
I think
we'll
end on that because I think that's it.
Well said, Robbie.
And that's I know, like, because we're going into the grit chapter next, and we're talking all about grit. So again, if you haven't gotten the book, fine, search Stephen Kotler grit in your YouTube search engine, and it'll bring you to several clips and some longer clips, and some of them might be like business orientated, but also like we can apply what people are trying to apply in business to our personal lives all the time.
And he uses these in his talks in bits and pieces too. It's not always in context. He might be taking from 2 or 3 concepts and putting them together for a particular talk that he's giving.
Like Google.
Yeah.
I mean, Google runs our lives. Let's
you can find the pieces of it out
who have
there,
taught Google how to run our lives. I mean, let's take control back, right? These are some of the people who have inspired the people who run the world. So let's listen to them. Let's listen to them because maybe we can learn something and run our own world in the future. I think it's important. And we are the masters of our own destiny in so many ways, and how we enjoy our lives, and it's going to have ups and downs, and I think that that's fine. And also, I needed the reminder that when I'm walking into that job that I don't like, I can be like, I choose to be here. It's fine. Yep. But also, like, I have to step myself up to believing that thought because it's so not fine.
That's a great title, Robbie. Write that down.
How to be hated in YouTube in less than 4 million views. Can I write the foreword? Can I write the foreword to your book?
See,
I want to be the first one to read it, and I want to write the foreword. I'm here for it.
You've already got help.
Yes, and I want to read that book because I feel like to be hated in YouTube in less than 4 million views is still 4 million views on YouTube, motherfuckers. Still.
There you go. He says yes. All right.
I'm holding you to it. I'm holding you to it, Robbie.
Awesome.
I want to see a first draft in a year or less. All right.
She's a slave driver. She'll crack the whip every day. Trust me, I know.
Oh, so what's Robbie's phone number? Maybe I'll start texting him. I'll start texting him directly once a week. Like, so Robbie, how's the book? So Robbie, how's the book? I get.
Oh my gosh. Hilarious.
Anyway, Robbie, on that note. Blow by blow, the hatred. Yep. And also the songs that you wrote that came from that, because for every blow there was a song. Yep. For every blow there was a new creative outlet. Well, folks, just keep trying, keep it on, and like explore some of Stephen Kotler's work if you can't get the book, because we'll be going through it chapter by chapter. We're taking our sweet ass time. So let's see. Just in perspective, Richard says that he wants to go through grit this next week. Also, I'm going to go through grit. Probably need to be reminded. After I read those highlights, I was like, oh yeah, that was a good section.
There's more here than I remembered.
Yeah, all the little things. So this is the start of grit, y'all, right here, right? It's about that many pages, okay? Yeah. And that's the habit of ferocity. And that would put us...
half-ish?
Nearly half-ish?
Yeah, half-ish way. It's close enough to half-ish. It's a little less.
We're calling it half. We're calling it almost half.
Yeah.
So there we are. And I really
we're
think
getting there.
It's fine.
It is.
There's so many nuggets in that book that you will find yourself re-listening to it in sections and bits and pieces. And once you get all the way through, you'll be like, oh, I want to redo it again. Mm-hmm. So all the love to you guys. We're going to wrap this one up. All the love to you, Richard, because you know what? You have more grit than you know, sir. So I think you will fly through that grit. I think you will fly through that grit section like, yep. I think it's actually going to be one of the more familiar sections to you.
Oh, nice. I'm looking forward to it.
I get it. I get all this. This is my jam. I am gritty. I am gritty. And that's not just the bags that you have hanging off your motorcycles. I'm gritty.
Right. Real deal.
The real deal.
Night says hello.
So for now, y'all.
Bye-bye, everybody. See you next
out.
week.
Story shared and secrets low. Time to linger, but we got
Where's my button? Oh, there it is.
Voices faded with the moon's call. Laughter echoed down the hall. Thoughts that flew like paper dolls. Wrap it up and let it fall. Turn the volume down low, my friends. This chatter's come to an end. Till we gather again and again. Let these moments extend. In the quiet, hear the clock tick-tock. Words won't stop, but we'll walk the walk. Dream a little till the next talk. Out of time, let's unlock. Turn the volume down low, my friends. This chatter's come to an end. Till we gather again and again. Let these moments extend. In the quiet, hear the clock tick-tock. Words won't stop, but we'll walk the walk. Dream a little till the next talk. Out of time, let's unlock. Turn the volume down low, my friends. This chatter's come to an end. Till we gather again and again. Let these moments extend. With open minds, now we drift on the book of fine. Page by page until we bind sweet goodbyes. Let's unwind.